Greetings, salutations, and welcome to After Action. I'm your host, Patrick Kreeger, and I'm joined once again by Jack, but for the first time on After Action.
Yes, I've done 2 recordings before, but not on After Action, so this will be a first for that.
Indeed. And we actually watched one of the films that kind of got me into this whole concept. We watched Death Tunnel. And Death Tunnel was one of the films that I watched a while ago. I spent good money on this film, and I went, wow, this is junk. I wish someone out there would review tons and tons of bad films and let me know if this bad film is a bad film worth spending time on or not. So, watch, don't watch.
Well, I would say don't watch.
Okay.
There's by my approximations, there are 3 things in this film that are good.
We're not in spoiler territory yet.
Okay.
So that will be after.
Okay. There's 3 things, and they don't make the movie worth watching. Maybe if you could find screenshots of them, that would be worth looking into. That's about it.
For myself, I when we sat down to watch this film, I said that this would be a watch with friends. I retract that statement. This is a don't watch. I forgot how much I dislike this film.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you watch a movie alone, you might think maybe it's this will be fun with friends, but no,
No, it wasn't.
it's pretty boring, honestly. Not a whole lot to say about it.
Well, we'll get into it in a moment here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's nothing. It's just not a Troll 2, not a The Room, bad movie.
No, this is nowhere near that.
Yeah, and nowhere near. That's what we should be emphasizing.
So, I want to read a couple things off the back of the box. First, they put a quote. One of the most frightening ghost stories ever told.
I mean,
Horror review. That was a horrible review.
Oh,
Well, it's my horror review.
horror.
Review. Yeah. Okay. Bad puns are bad puns. This is its own description. 1 abandoned sanatorium. 5 sexy co-eds who have been dared to spend the night. What starts as rowdy fun soon turns into a deadly nightmare as they discover terrifying secrets that haunt the grisly corridors. Now each door reveals a new horror. Each hallway leads to unimaginable suffering. And one way out is through the one way out is through a 500-foot long tunnel of death. This Kentucky sanatorium, where it is said 63,000 people died to the infamous White Plague.
Yeah, and there's the thing about the movie is it's supposedly based on a true story.
Yes.
The White Plague. Wait, is that what it's called?
That's what they call it in the film.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a thing that existed. I know that the sanatorium that they're talking about is Waverly Hill Sanatorium. Anyone who watches ghost hunting shows is familiar with this place. It's infamous on these ghost hunting shows. I'm pretty certain it was a tuberculosis clinic, and it was a place for, it was a poorhouse at one point. They grew all their own food, which is pretty cool. But I don't know if the White Plague is a thing or if they created it for the movie. It could be a real thing.
Okay, but the death chute or whatever it was that part of the original?
There is a giant tunnel. There is actually a tunnel at this Waverly Hills place.
And
but
did they dump 63,000 people into it, or is this?
I don't know, but
this movie lying to me?
I think this movie is lying to you. But I do know.
Wait, a movie lying?
No, this is not a documentary. Death Tunnel is not a documentary.
Utterly shocked. A movie would lie to me. And it would claim to be based on true events and perhaps exaggerate said events in the film itself.
Indeed. Like, for example, at Waverly Hill Sanatorium, I think only one nurse killed herself. and they imply in the movie that there is a murder suicide. Well,
Mass suicide.
yeah, they. So there are, as they say, 5 floors, 5 girls, 5 hours, 5 ghosts. So let's go through our characters real quick here. The girls' names spell out death. I thought that was the premise to the show. Well, okay, you what's the setup? Why are these women in the sanatorium?
Okay, so it's it's 5 like college bimbos, basically.
Freshmen.
Yeah, and they really are, like, the movie is just so blunt about, like, it's these dumb college girls. I mean, the whole opening of the movie has them wearing just these slutty outfits and just acting catty to each other. It's just very. It was almost like a scary movie setup, like those, like Scary Movie.
Not
those,
an actual frightening movie, but the scary movie TM. It was so terrible. It was like a parody, but no, it was real. It was trying to be earnest. But basically, these 5 girls, as part of their sorority. Yes, it was a sorority initiation, as the box says. Death tunnel, your initiation to terror.
Yeah. Okay. So it's set up like like they're like it's this hazing ritual where they have to stay inside the abandoned sanitarium.
Yep.
For a day or for
5 hours.
For 5
it's after
hours,
a party.
5 hours, and then there's the whole tagline: 5 hours, 5 girls, 5 floors.
Yeah, it's 5 floors, 5 girls, 5 hours, or something like that.
But then the sanitarium is actually haunted,
Yes.
and they get, it's like a kind of like a slasher movie. They get killed off
one by one. It is set up, by the way. I don't think you picked up on this. It is set up that this is something they do every year.
Okay.
They show footage from previous years. This is a common thing they do.
Okay, and it only becomes haunted this year for some reason.
There is a reason.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Should we get into that?
Yeah, no. We're after our watch, don't watch. Then it's spoiler territory.
Okay, unfamiliar with the rules here, but so it turns out that all the 5 girls, I mean, they all get picked off, other than I think one is kind of implied to.
It's up to
survive.
you whether she.
Yeah, it's kind of ambiguous. But
Heather.
Yeah, Heather. I mean, if you'll notice on the title here, the H is kind of highlighted on death.
Oh, that's actually clever. I did not notice that.
That's like the one clever thing in the movie, and it's not in the movie itself.
Oh, and hence death tunnel. The tunnel isn't a tunnel of death. It's just called the tunnel or the chute in the movie.
Yeah.
But it's death, the girls, and then tunnel. It's their tunnel. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is slightly more clever than I thought.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is the whole movie is it's like all the clever things are just kind of surface level, like on, I guess you could say, like the synopsis of the movie, like the whole tagline, 5 girls, 5 floors, 5 hours. Oh yes.
I was gonna say, and as the girls die, they shorten that to 5 floors, 3 girls, 3 hours. But the thing I don't know is if they actually do a 4 girls, 4 hours. I don't know if they did that. They definitely did a 3, 2, and 1, but I don't know if they did a 4.
I mean, that maybe, I don't know. That doesn't really matter. It's just I guess to get to one of my main problems of the movie, they don't. It's kind of jumbled. It's like the writer just thought, oh, this was a cool idea. Like 5 girls, 5 floors, 5 hours. That's a cool tagline. And then tried to combine that with this sort of based on true events haunting asylum scenario. And it doesn't, it's like 2 ideas that don't really work together. Cause it's almost like a Saw thing. Like they're trapped in this maze, in this, place that's being run by, well, I guess that's another element. There's kind of a ghost guy that controls.
So there's a control room that's set up early on in the film. And the guy in charge of the control room, the human guy, gets axed pretty quickly.
The prank guy, the guy that like is controlling the place, like in terms of the sorority hazing ritual, he gets killed off and is replaced by
a plague doctor.
And I guess that'll be one of the cool things in the movie. His costume looks cool.
The modern plague doctor.
That's what this movie has going for it, is slight, interesting looking visuals that comprise 1% of the movie.
That costume got its own credit, by the way. If when we actually watched the credits of this film, which is mildly unusual for After Action. Because I was waiting for it to say, thanks to our friends at such and such university, which, spoiler alert, it did. But yeah, the outfit of the modern plague doctor, who is apparently known as Hood Man, got his own credit for the team
it's a cool costume.
It's a really cool costume.
In the movie, you occasionally see this plague doctor guy kind of pushing around a cart.
Yeah.
Implied to be like removing the dead bodies of the girls to dump down the chute or wherever.
He ends up storing them in the morgue. That's
kind of weird. But his costume's cool. It's like it's almost like he has like the air of like a good like monster movie, horror movie. But it's like there's no substance to it because.
If this film were the same premise, but instead of it being ghosts, it was an insane man who was wearing that outfit in this sanatorium, hunting these girls down, it would be a much better film.
Yeah, and that goes back to the theme of it being muddled, because it's like this Saw plot, someone trapping these girls in this building and slowly, killing them off. But then... It's also supernatural because this guy's basically a ghost, or he calls himself a god at the end of the movie, and he has kind of like
a god.
Yeah, he has like almost like a video game filtered monster voice. Like he sounds like a character from like I don't know, like a World of Warcraft or something.
The quote that he says at the end of the film is the only thing it has on the IMDb.
Yeah, there aren't exactly a whole lot of memorable quotes. To go back to, we went off on a tangent. One thing, the reason that the girls start being picked off in this particular hazing ritual, why they get killed by these ghosts, is because they are all related to the nurses that killed themselves when the asylum originally had its... What would you
when it was in operation?
Yeah, when it was in operation, when there was the event that killed so many people and the nurses committed suicide. I guess they're either related to the girls or they're the reincarnations of them or something.
It's made very clear that they're all actually related to them, like genetically related to them.
Genetically related, but okay.
It's also clear that they are either the reincarnations of, or the spirits of the nurses take over the bodies once they've come into the sanatorium. That's not 100% clear, because like early on in the film, there's this scene where one of the girls is like having this fit where she's like half the girl who used to be the nurse and half this college girl. Like and she keeps flipping back.
Almost like a identity disorder, panic attack.
So I can't tell if that's supposed to imply that she's not actually a reincarnation, but like a spirit is taking over her.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all jumbled mess, and it's like kind of not even kind of. It's a really trashy like exploitation movie.
It's not even exploitation.
Well,
there's a scene there's two scenes that are exploitative. We have the shower scene that's exploitative of nudity and sexuality, and then there's the scene where the girl kills the other girl that's exploitative of murder. That's it. There's nothing going for this film.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty boring.
You can't say like, "Oh, watch this film. It's full of sexy girls." Oh, watch this film. It's full of cool dads.
The beginning makes it look like it's a lot more of a like softcore porn,
a
horror movie.
Turns out a couple of these girls ended up working for Playboy. That is a thing.
Yeah, that didn't surprise me. I mean, right off the bat, I'm like, these girls look like they're like porn actresses or something.
One of them was in a movie called Scarecrow Gone Wild, which is a Scarecrow, the movie series parody.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
So I pulled up the IMDb. It has exactly one quote. It says, apparently they're calling the character Death. Like the plague doctor. It says, the quote is, by death in the morgue. And then the quote is, here, I am God. I am life. I am death. So...
I bet the writer thought that sounded really cool.
Oh, I'm sure the writer, director, editor all thought that was a really cool line. Because they're all the same man.
Yeah.
This is the most student film to ever student film.
Yeah. Not just on a visual level. Well, yeah, mainly on a visual level. It has like these title cards at the beginning and during the credits and everything, where all the font is like really in your face. Like when the credits show up, it isn't just normal scrolling, white on black text. It's this totally edgy font that just flashes in and whoa, while it's playing this like Marilyn Manson industrial music.
That was weird.
It's a very... The movie came out in 2005, apparently.
Yes.
And
it had a budget of $1.5 million.
Yeah, I don't know how, where all the money went, but it's definitely a movie of its time, though. Mostly just the soundtrack. And at the beginning of the movie, they're like in this industrial, like EBM, dance club. And it's just blaring that kind of, like Marilyn Manson industrial music. It's like the whole movie kind of does.
So there's a lot of strange music, and it doesn't seem to fit, ever.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of in the beginning. There's just that sorority plot that's kind of at the very beginning of the movie. It doesn't really carry over throughout the rest of the movie.
No.
It's also the editing at the beginning was just really weird.
This is really what I wanted you to get into.
Oh, yeah.
I really want you to talk about this editing.
I guess I should have brought it up earlier, but so the movie opens up and it's these sorority babes on the step of the university.
Actually, that is not the starting.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
The starting is a flashback to 1910.
Okay, that's right. The beginning, the real beginning is kind of a montage of newspaper clippings and old photographs showing
the same old photographs we're going to see the entire film.
Yeah, that show the incident that the movie is kind of based around with the plague that killed all the people in the asylum. And
the effects of the white plague as they're showing.
Yeah, and it's done, I think, alongside the credits.
Yes.
Which is an okay opening. It kind of builds the setting, and then it just kind of hard cuts to this university, and there's these kind of and they really act like bimbos. Just these blonde freshmen college. Whoa, let's go get drunk. Kind of, it's awful acting, but it's just a really jarring hard cut, and so. But where it starts getting really weird is when they go to the club at the beginning. They go to the dance club,
which is, by the way, part of the asylum. Just so you know, it was shot at the asylum.
Yeah,
it's not supposed to be, but it's shot at the asylum.
Yeah, so they go to this dance club and they're all dressed, skimpy and everything.
Yeah, it said provocative bedwear is required on the invitation to the party.
So then. As this party is going on, as this dance rave is going on, it keeps cutting back to what I guess is after the party.
It's a flash forward.
Yeah, it's like a flash forward, but then it keeps flashing back to the party. It flashes forward to the 5 girls trapped in the asylum, wrapped in I don't know what you call that, just
they call them in the movie. They call them plague hoods.
Yeah.
They're
Is
like,
that a thing?
I don't know if that's a thing.
Maybe that was a thing in 1910.
By the way, I totally Googled it. The White Plague is a synonym with tuberculosis.
Okay, so
it
there's
is
some
TB.
basis in reality.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, Waverly was a tuberculosis home. I did know that,
But anyway, so it keeps coming back to or flashing forward, although you don't really know it at the time because they're
oh, it's also flashing back, my friend.
oh
Yeah, it's flashing.
God, yeah, the beginning's all over the place. Like I totally forgot.
It's flashing forward to the girls getting the rules explained to them, while also trying to unlock their masks. It is flashing forward further to where people are being killed.
Yeah, it even flashes forward to like the final kill of the movie too, which is kind of crazy.
It flashes back to when the guys are setting up all the equipment, which could not have been earlier that day. It must have been multiple years ago, because we also flash back to they've done this for multiple years.
Yeah.
And it flashes back to the 1920s.
So it's confusing from a storyline element because when it flashes forward to the girls being because these flashbacks and flash forwards aren't edited like entire scenes.
They're 3-second clips.
Yeah, it's almost like it just flashes. It's just flashing between random clips. Like it'll be, like 20 seconds of the dance scene, and then it flashes to 10 seconds of the girls tied up with these hoods on in this asylum, and then it'll flash back to the dance, and then it'll flash forward to one of the girls murdering one of the other girls in the asylum, but not wearing the hoods. But then
we don't know that at the time, though.
Yeah. Oh, but then it'll flash back to all the guys setting up all the equipment in the asylum. But then it'll flash to, or no, before that, it flashes back to. It flashes forward to the guy that's controlling the asylum. That's just like a college guy that's doing this as a prank or the hazing ritual.
It's just a prank, bro.
Yeah, he gets killed in like a weird... It's like a weird edit where he freeze frames and then there's like blood on his face.
I thought it was like him speedily decomposing.
Or something like that. A lot of the deaths in this are weird, but not in like a cool way.
Is he one of the bodies hanging in the morgue later?
Possibly. A lot of the bodies that it shows are like they're just like covered in like oil and like fake blood.
Yes, all the electricity and everything in this movie oozes ooze.
Oh yeah, that's another weird.
It is
detail.
The secret of the ooze.
Yeah, so you have this really jumbled beginning where it's just showing, just flashing back and flashing forward, and none of it is shot like a scene. It's all like just clips from different scenes, just like it's almost like just a big salad bowl of like different clips just thrown together. And the movie becomes more focused after that. It's pretty much just them running around the asylum for the rest of the movie.
Oh, but the ghosts, whenever they interact with the ghosts, it becomes an unwatchable nightmare.
Oh yeah, no, that's another thing too, is the movie has that annoying House on Haunted Hill 1999 or whatever that remake came out, that way of shooting where paranormal stuff is shot with extremely sped up, or it's shot with a low frame rate so it's all jerky, or it's really out of focus. So the movie, it just has all these annoying like early 2000s horror movie cliches, like visual cliches of sped up and jerky frame rate. Just whenever these ghosts or anything paranormal shows up, or the plague doctor, whenever it shows him, it's just suddenly he's moving around in jerky frame rate, and the film is really out of focus.
One thing that I want to point out is, so after our controlling guy, the college guy that's controlling, for the first time says, 5 floors, 5 girls, 5 hours. He then gets killed, and you hear another voice in his voice say, and 5 ghosts. Name the 5 ghosts.
They are the same girls that end up getting
I think that's what it's got to be.
Or are they the direct descendants of the? Are they the ancestors of the girls that are there that just happen to look like them?
They are the girls that are in the sorority girls are indeed just the ancestors that look like them, but I believe they end up being possessed by their previous ancestors.
I said this movie. Oh, well, what were you gonna say?
What I'm going to say is, there's more than 5 ghosts, like no matter how you slice it. So, the 5 ghosts. There's the twins, as they call them, the 2 nude women in the diapers that walk around.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the twins. There's the little girl with the ball. There's this little girl who's clearly just like a small 16-year-old that has this leather soccer ball she's bouncing. So there's that one.
And then in one scene, it turns into a Gmod flying object and hits something.
Yeah, that's part of the editing. There's the ghost nurse. Okay, so we're at 4 ghosts here.
And then there's Dracula.
Well, and so okay, then there's Count Acula, Dr. Acula, who's, I can't remember his actual name in the film, but that doesn't matter. And then there's Death, the plague doctor. So there's 6 ghosts there. And then you could say, well, it's the ghosts that are inhabiting the bodies of the women. Okay. Let's say that. If that's the case, then there's 4. Because the blonde who gets electrocuted, it's never implied she's taken over by a ghost. Nor is it implied that the...
yeah, she just dies.
She just dies.
She runs. She's just like, fuck you guys. And then she runs down a hallway and runs into electrical wires and dies.
Yeah, she never gets possessed, as it were. Nor does the Indian woman. No, the Asian woman.
Yeah.
The Indian woman does indeed get possessed at one point. But the Asian woman doesn't. And then, of course, the other 2 characters do. The other 2 women. But, so, maybe that's it. Maybe it's the blonde doesn't get possessed, but so then the 5th ghost is Dr. Acula. I don't know where this 5 ghosts is coming from. It's too many ghosts.
Well, I don't know. And I don't know. I didn't even pay attention to that because who cares? But what I
care.
Now, you mentioned the Dr. Acula.
Yes, let's talk about him. He got us to shut up.
It was, I don't know. The whole movie just kind of lost me. It was just kind of boring and crappy.
The editing, you can't get past the editing. It is an unwatchable nightmare.
Yeah, the movie just doesn't shut up. It's just like, it's like the anti-Shining. It's you instead of like these long scenes full of tension and dread, it's just like constant screeching in your face with this shaky cam. Well, there isn't really shaky cam. It's more like shaky editing where
they didn't have a steady cam.
Yeah.
This whole film is slightly shaky and it's annoying.
Yeah, and
to its credit, very few Dutch angles.
But so the movie's obnoxious. But anyway, at one point Dracula shows up. It's really weird because all the characters are just kind of these college bimbos acting terribly.
Yes, and then a guy from Wolfenstein steps out.
Wolfenstein, more like Castlevania. No, this corny.
I considered him more of like a Dr. Mengele sort more than.
Yeah, I guess maybe. But he seemed. He was like really hammy. He seemed like a monster from like a 30s or a 40s horror movie, like a Hammer movie.
Yeah, he did.
He looked like Dracula too. He had like this kind of corny makeup. Like it was
sunken in eyes.
Yeah, and sunken in
ashen
cheeks.
Skin.
And yeah, he just looks like Dracula, and he gives this corny kind of speech about he hates weakness.
Yes.
And he needs to stamp it out, and he has this really dramatic. I don't even know.
Speech. It's a monologue. He monologues at them about how the weak drag you down to their level.
It comes out of nowhere. It shocked
he
us
comes
into
out of
silence.
nowhere.
Yeah, it was great. It was pure schlock.
All done in the southern drawl, by the way.
Yeah, he had a southern drawl.
I mean, it is Tennessee.
Yeah, so I guess that's believable. But it is just kind of weird because he's almost like I said, a 30s or a 40s horror monster, horror Dracula kind of character.
Mad scientist.
Yeah, or mad scientist, from a film from that era that just sort of pops into this very 2000s low budget horror movie.
Which makes sense because he's supposed to be from the end of the asylum, which the end of the asylum was in the 30s.
Yeah, I guess in the context it makes sense, but it is just sort of funny, just the way he shows up. It's so jarring.
Yeah, it really is. But I do love his outfit. He's got that, the leather doctor's coat with the buttons on the side.
He's a cool thing in the movie number 2.
Yeah, so we have both the doctors.
Yeah, both the doctors.
So,
well, the death ghost or whatever, he's not cool himself. It's just his costume.
Yes, his lines are corny as hell. And I want to point out something. I watched this film before, and the ending made no sense to me before.
Oh yeah, the ending. The beginning
yeah,
is
do
a
we
jumbled...
want to talk about the plot? Yeah, describe the plot. Describe the plot of Death Tunnel. I'm giving you that challenge.
What is the plot of Death Tunnel, really? Okay, 5 girls, 5 floors, 5 doors, whatever.
Okay, I actually have a good synopsis. I think I can synopsisize this film better than the film does itself. The film is, for all intents and purposes, 5 girls and 1 guy in a haunted house trying to survive ghosts. Yes, it's not the ghosts that kill them, it's each other that kill themselves, or pure accidents. But it is implied that they are hiding from these ghosts. One by one, they are picked off, until eventually they realize what's going on here. They must pay for the sins of their ancestors. Their ancestors were people who tortured these tuberculosis patients. Some of them murdered unborn children. Some of them euthanized people who were well. And in fact, our final 2 characters, our lead woman, Heather, and our lead man, who is the great-great-grandson of Dr. Acula, were, one, the great-great-grandson of Dr. Acula, which apparently is a sin he needs to atone for, and the lead female was apparently a woman who sadistically liked to just kill people for no apparent reason. And he talks about that. Dr. Acula says, the things I did were about eliminating suffering. I killed people, yes, but I killed people to stop their suffering. You killed people because you enjoyed it. And he's not saying, oh, your ancestor killed people because she enjoyed it. You personally killed people because you enjoyed it. And he even describes really stupid things about you put needles into their brains and pump their heads so full of blood they exploded, which was kind of out of nowhere thing. And then they do get out. So that's the plot.
Yeah. So the ending is, if the beginning is jumbled with editing and cuts that just keep jumping back and forth and don't make sense story-wise, but also don't make sense tonally, like cutting from this horrible, what is essentially like a Saw kind of torture scene to blonde, slutty girls in a bar with techno music and dumb what is it, like Mean Girls dialogue.
Yes.
And cutting back and forth between that stuff, like 30 seconds of this and then 30 seconds of that. It's really jumbled. But the ending isn't really jumbled editing wise. It's very film student. It's very pretentious. They escape the asylum.
Yes.
And visually, it looks very different. It's a lot more colorful, which doesn't really clash with the themes. But suddenly it's almost kind of surreal. Like the Heather is in a white dress.
Yes, she's suddenly in a patient's dress.
Yeah, and
she's got the tuberculosis.
Yeah, and then it's shot in kind of this dream, like
oversaturated.
Way oversaturated with kind of this like glowy, like bloom effect
to it. It just smeared Vaseline on that lens.
It looks really fake, which maybe is the point. But and then he carries her off in his arms and goes into a bunker entrance.
Okay, so you did misunderstand the ending.
Yeah.
Okay. So the ending is...
Well, I know it was probably metaphorical, like she well, no, okay, never mind. Go on.
So the ending is actually kind of deep if you're...
quotes?
If you're... No. Like, if you're into the Death Tunnel lore. The ending is kind of deep. So, remember what I said about how our protagonist woman, Heather, is actually the spirit of one of the previous nurses. And how our leading man is just the descendant of the doctor. He is not the doctor's ghost. He is a descendant of the doctor. I also want to point out where they were going to college. They were in medical school. They weren't just at a college, they were at a medical school. And they make that very clear that the girls are trying to become nurses and that the guy is almost a doctor. So that's actually set up earlier in the film, which makes the ending make a little bit more sense. When I first saw this film, I see him come up to the girl who is now clearly infected in the real world. She's bleeding from the nose and she says, "I'm sick. I actually am ill." And he comes up to her and he kisses her and says, "I'll make you better." Now, there's this whole setup about how this disease is incurable. It's constantly coming up. No cure. Uncurable. These are words that are thrown at us throughout the film. And the thing that the old doctor was trying to do, Dr. Acula, was he was trying to figure out how to end their suffering. He didn't care about curing the disease. He cared about ending their suffering so they were no longer a drain on society. And the point is that the son is getting a chance to, or the grandson or great-grandson or whatever, is getting a chance to make right where his great-great-grandfather did wrong and instead focus on curing the disease. So he picks up the now sick and diseased woman and brings her back into the sanitarium. They're not leaving. They go right back where they came from. Because he's bringing her back into the sanitarium and turning the sanitarium from a place of death into a place of healing. Boom.
And
yeah, and
that's the thing is it's a surreal, metaphorical.
Yeah, it's
very different visually from the rest of the movie, and but then you don't even care because the characters aren't interesting or likable, and it's all kind of jumbled.
No, and this beautiful, relatively beautiful ending for such a terrible film is thrown away when then they start cutting to scenes of her dead body on a slab.
Oh yeah, it's comedy perfection achieved on accident. Because it's like the whole dreamlike scene. It has kind of this like these strings. What do you call that? Like this strings music. It's very cinematic, very trying to be
ethereal.
Very touching. Yeah, and he walks back into the bunker, and
walks back into the death tunnel.
Yeah, and the music's just kind of swelling, and then all of a sudden, hard cut to Marilyn Manson industrial music, zoom in onto her corpse on a gurney, and then just images of dead bodies and edgy credits flashing in, directed by whatever this guy's name is.
It says directed, written, and edited by, and then just his name, which I do have to say props for not saying, directed by and then his name, edited by and then his name.
The Neil Breen way of doing credits.
Which, by the way, is totally the way we're doing it when we do our film.
Oh God.
Spoiler alert, we're doing a film. But anyway, there was one thing I want to point out where this film really did well, and that is there's two things that this film really did well. One, the setting. The setting was gorgeous for what it was, but they didn't set it up that way. It was already that way. It's just a creepy old sanatorium.
Yeah, it's just...
They just found one and they started filming in it.
Yeah.
But it's perfect for what it is. Two, I really thought the props were fantastic in this film. And then when we watched the credits, I figured out why.
Because it was Warner Brothers props.
Well, Warner Brothers apparently somehow Warner Brothers is attached to the costumes. But they got a prop house to do all the props for the film. And my bet is that little prop house just pulled out all the guns. They're like, this is our big deal. We're gonna do everything. They're like called History Made Real or something like that. They did all the props and they get multiple credits throughout the runtime of the thing. The other thing I want to say that I want to take a shot at the filmmaker for, I don't like that he forces actresses and actors to walk around barefoot and scantily clad in such a dirty place. Like, this is legitimately a dirty, filthy place. And, like, you should be wearing breathing apparatus when you're in this place. Because, it's full of dead birds and rotting rats and all that jazz. And he just has these people, like, in their lingerie, barefoot, wandering around this place.
Yeah.
I didn't like that they did that to the actresses. I hope they treated them well.
To be fair, you don't know that he forced them to do that.
No, I don't know that he forced them to do it.
They might have volunteered. You never know.
Not only may they have been volunteered, not only may they have been well paid, because, again, $1 million film here, but it also might be, like, misleading. If you notice, the floor only ever had, like, fake dirt on it. And the few glass scenes there were, like, where there's broken glass and dirt and stuff like that, it's very closely shot, so you don't, like, necessarily know that it was, like, done in a dirty asylum. It might have been done on a soundstage. Maybe this filmmaking is a hell of a lot better than I think it is, and these actresses weren't actually subjected to bad situations. But maybe that's giving this film too much credit.
Yeah, this movie...
They're very proud of their cover, though.
The cover of the character that doesn't appear in the movie. Well, maybe the character does, but...
no,
For those that can't see it, woman in lingerie, but she's wearing She's wearing,
just a gas mask.
She's wearing a Soviet gas mask, let me tell you.
Ooh.
One of those generic civilian Soviet gas masks you can get at an army surplus store for $10. Also, it doesn't have a filter, so that gas mask wouldn't really work.
No, it does not have a filter.
And this gas mask appears nowhere in the film.
This is... it's false advertising.
Why isn't the death guy on the cover?
I don't know.
He looks cooler.
And they do hold on him.
And he's in the movie.
They hold on him for a long time, so it's not like they're afraid of him, showing him. By the way, yes, Jack, they can see the cover. It's going to be in the center. This is what they're going to be staring at for these 45 minutes.
Wow, I bet I sounded like a real asshole saying that.
No. I do actually hope some people listen to this as a podcast. Yeah. So I think that's about all we can say about Death Tunnel. I hope we didn't tempt you into watching it. You
stay away from this movie. Like I said, there's 3 things that are good.
Yeah, tell me what those 3 things are.
The costume for Death, or gas mask ghost, whatever he's called.
Yeah, the plague doctor.
The plague doctor. His costume is cool, not necessarily him himself, and the way he's shot is kind of lame. It does that like jerky editing whenever he's around, other than the very end.
Yeah.
Dr. Dracula is cool.
Yep.
He's corny, but I was laughing when he showed up.
I would watch a film where he is the villain.
Yeah, it's frustrating because all the good elements are used so sparingly that you wish they had a bigger role in the movie. Third cool part, I actually don't remember. I guess I guess the props are cool.
There's
I
like the whole eyeball in the jar.
yeah.
Of
Oh yeah,
pee
yeah.
And,
Or the weird eyeball security camera.
yeah,
That
and all the cool switches in the control
yeah.
room. And the props are
Or just
props to the
the
props.
slime dripping off
Yeah.
the electronics is interesting. It never pays off.
I wanted
but-
to talk about this slime thing. I did want to talk about the slime. So there's a slime on the light bulbs. There's a slime on all the electrical wires, which is weird. And then there's the shower scene with our future Playboy bunny. The shower scene is really weird. So, like, it starts off with the girl trying to be sexy because she's trying to, like, get back at her boyfriend who's been flirting with another girl. And so she's trying to be sexy, knowing that she's being watched, which I find really weird because, one, the character's kind of set up to be like, prim and like, bimbo sort of girl. So like, I can't imagine her wanting to be filmed nude, like just based on what little character development we had.
Yeah. It's a pretty
Live.
obvious excuse just to have boobs in the movie. But
Yes, but then there's like backwards. This is where we get into the editing. There's like zombies in the shower, and there's the water going back up into the shower, and then the shower just spits slime.
it spits, like Nickelodeon orange slime onto the girl.
Yeah. Why?
And to once again say the movie's just a jumbled mess of all these different ideas that don't really pay off or gel together.
No.
Or should I say slime together?
Oh,
That was bad.
that was bad.
But no, like slime and a Saw kind of situation, but then also there's ghosts and it's a haunted asylum, but then it's also a sorority house. I mean, they weren't part of the same building, but I don't know. It's just all these things just kind of thrown together in a pot.
You know what? I'm going to revise my statement earlier. Remember when I said don't watch?
Yeah.
I'm going to say watch now. But I'm going to say it under this very strict proviso. That you are, like, less than, like, 13. Even though this is a rated R film, and so you shouldn't be watching it if you're less than 13. And you watch it at night alone. The jump scares will bother you. The jump scares will scare you. But this movie will not stick with you, so you can go to sleep later. That's the only... That's the only reason I can see to watch it.
I don't know. I guess if you really wanted to watch it, maybe watch the shower scene.
It's funny, and it's weird, and it's...
Yeah, Dracula, I guess. Or his scene's kind of cool.
You could probably pick up the film, like if you were to like scroll through the film, you could probably pick up the film from the time the cheerleader bimbo sort of character gets her mask off. Once she gets her hood off and starts smoking, because they took her clothes, but they didn't take her cigarette and her lighter.
Yeah.
Once that she takes her hood off and starts smoking, the film becomes less jarbled. And I think if you cut out the entire beginning of the film, it almost becomes reasonable.
Yeah, it almost would work better if you just dropped him off, if you just dropped the viewer off right there. Because you kind of didn't really need all that stuff.
No, you could literally just drop... like, if I were to re-edit this film, I would have it show up with one of the girls in the hood, and, and have the voice come on, and do the creepy 5 girls, 5 hours.
Yeah.
And, like, you think it's a murderer sort of thing. And, so, the guy says, find your key. It's somewhere in there. And, like, you think it's setting up to a Saw thing. And then girl gets the mask off, doof. And then they cut to the control room where they exposition at you.
Yeah.
That would be better than... you don't need any of the preamble stuff. You don't need any of it. Yeah. Where they don't explain the White Death in the scene. The only thing you get out of any of those scenes is the name White Death for the disease, and the fact that the lead character is a doctor.
Yeah.
That's...
So to say once again, stay far away from the movie. Don't watch it. Don't order it on DVD on an outdated format.
Hey, 480p is the wave of the future. Yeah, I can't stay that with a straight face. It's pretty bad. I'm starting to like get so used to HD that this is awful. Well, thank you very much on joining us on this this adventure through the dark catacombs of Waverly Hills Asylum, and the only film I know about Waverly Hills Asylum, Death Tunnel. Actually, that's another one. If you're a fan of Waverly Hills Asylum, which I know some of you are, instead of watching this, go watch the Waverly Hills Asylum episode of BuzzFeed's Unsolved. So, until next time, dear listener, see you out there.